So this idea of the brain cost is something I've been thinking about more recently. It refers to how much does it cost your brain to process whatever activity you're trying to follow through on. And it's really influenced by the behaviors, the habits that we have when we are performing any activity. The seeds for this were planted many years ago by Lax. Lax is Yinka, one of my friends. And in recent times, I have started thinking more on the idea. So many years ago, Lax said something to me along the lines of he's very protective of his mental space. He's very careful who he allows to take space in his brain. That was literally how he said it. And at the time, it made sense. I didn't think so much about it, but recently, I've started to think more and more about it. So, your brain is like real estate. Each of our brains is like real estate, and it has immense power to process things and computing power, etc. But then, just like any machine, there are ways to efficiently use it and ways that are not. So, I have six things that I think about when I think about brain costs, and I'll share two on this video. The first one speaks to multitasking, and this is the very common one that many people know. It refers to when you're trying to do many things at the same time. And personally, initially, I thought that multitasking was a skill that could be developed. I literally thought that if I could do more things at the same time, I will be being more efficient. But science has shown through different studies and different talks I've also listened to of scientists, usually, they show that you really can't do two things at the same time. What your brain is doing is switching between activities rapidly. Now, when you switch from one activity to the other, your brain has to go in a new context. At least the way I understand it is your brain has to channel a whole set of resources to understand the context you're working in now and be as productive as you can be in that context. But the problem is something called flow. So when the way your brain works, when you are working on one thing for not specific, but for a continued period of time, then you get into something scientists call the flow, where you are very, will I call it agile and able to fix that problem or attend to that activity in a very efficient way. So I like to think of it like the context, your brain is in a place where it understands the context of what you're doing and it begins to efficiently address whatever activity you're trying to do. But the thing with multitasking is that you're switching contexts really quickly. And so you're just making it so much more difficult for yourself to be productive. And that is why people who multitask, they might be quite productive. They might do what they're doing in in an efficient manner, in fact, but then they are so worn out after a short period of time. They're worn out, they're tired, their brain has spent a lot to maintain that level of quality or to do that thing as good as they did it. And what's interesting is also the fact that they could have done that more efficiently if they only focused on one thing rather than switching tasks. So, this is the first thing I think about in brain costs. And so, how do you save costs? How do you save brain costs? Don't multitask. Try to do things one at a time. You focus on something and try to get it done. And when you're done with it, then you switch to something else. I'm sure you probably heard this in different articles or different speeches, but I think it's true. And even in my life, I noticed it. If I try to do so many things at the same time, at the end of the day, I'm so tired. I can't do anything else. I just want to sleep. I'm exhausted. But if I try to focus on one thing at a time, not only do I increase my chances of finishing that thing and doing it well, because there's another cost that comes with switching tasks, multitasking. the possibility that you're 80% done of things and you just have them as open tabs in your brain and you're like, okay, I need to finish that, but I'm tired right now. I'll finish that later. That's a real con of multitasking. So, yeah, trying to do one thing at the time, and when you finish that, you move on to the next task. That's one way to save brain costs. The second one I'll share on this video is, surprise, entertainment. Entertainment has huge brain costs. And the way I like to explain it is, sometimes when we think of the cost of a particular thing, or when we think about costs, we shouldn't just think about cost in terms of how much we pay for it. We should also think about cost in how much we lose for it. So, what's the sometimes opportunity cost? By paying for this, what am I not paying for, or what am I losing out on? I saw this very insightful video where this guy was interviewing a supposedly rich person and asking him what's the number one lesson you can learn or you've learned and you can share with us about being wealthy. And then he asked someone to pass him a normal bag, just a regular bag, maybe something like this. And he asked the interviewer, if I asked you to pay $10,000 for this bag, what would be your response? And the interviewer was like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. Permit the language. And he was like, hey, no, I'm not going to do that. And then he was like, that's the problem. You've refused to buy this bag for $10,000, but you've not asked me what is inside this bag. There could be $100,000 inside this bag. And now, because you've been thinking about the $10,000 it will cost you to buy what you think is not worth $10,000, you've missed out on $90,000. And that's the difference between rich people and people who are not rich. And that was really insightful for me, I will tell you, because when we choose to do certain things, or maybe, for example, watch some entertainment, yeah, it's costing us something to have that enjoyment. In fact, we think we're getting something back. But sometimes what we don't realize is what we are losing by having that entertainment. Now, don't get me wrong, entertainment is good. It's great to unwind and have downtimes where you just relax. But what I've noticed, especially now with social media, is that we live sort of an entertained life. So every time is entertainment. There's skits everywhere, there's jokes, there's comedy, there's movies, there's everything to entertain you. And so you're always being entertained. And what you realize is that many people are missing out on the immense benefits that could have come from if they were not entertained, and maybe they were studying, or if they were learning a skill, or if they were doing something else. They're missing out on that because they are being entertained. And so entertainment is huge brain cost. They are missing the opportunity to develop their brain, do neurological exercises. There are apps that you can use to test your math skills or test your maybe English language. It could be anything. Just even, what's this thing that you do for aptitude tests? Your aptitude. You miss the opportunity to test those ones because you're watching a comedy skit or some joke or a prank, or challenge on Instagram or whatever it is. And that's a cost. That's a cost. And in fact, I read recently that if you wanted to age well, if you wanted to lower your chances of having brain diseases in old age, it's best for you right now whilst you're young to do more cognitive exercises and exercise more and things like that. And so there's a huge real brain cost to entertainment. So, two things: multitasking, entertainment. Those are two things I've been thinking about recently that they can have quite a significant brain cost. In my next video, I'll share about other brain costs. And I hope you got something from this video. It's definitely something I am implementing in my own life to make sure I try to focus on one thing at one time, and to kind of reduce my entertainment as well. Thank you for watching.